Hawaii Part 2, the staple of every quirky neurodivergent listener's playlist. One could call it the encore of Tally Hall, with several songs being demos and fragments dating back to the band's earliest years. But while the album released at the end of 2012, Tally Hall itself had disbanded the previous year. From its ashes rose Miracle Musical, a collaborative effort led by Joe Hawley, Ross Fetterman, and Bora Karaja. A number of musicians came together to weave a mystical, colorful 11-part tapestry, with a bonus track added on for pre-orders. And once this ensemble did what they set out to do, that was it for Miracle Musical. Aside from some chiptune covers, outtakes, and early album demos, the project would release no further music. Except, they did. On December 14th, 2014, 2 years and 2 days after Hawaii Part 2 dropped, Miracle Musical uploaded a cover of Candle on the Water to Bandcamp and YouTube. With no physical edition or broader release on streaming services, you have to dig a bit to find it in the first place. There's a good chance you may be hearing about this for the first time, in which case I highly recommend you listen to the song for yourself. Yet, despite its obscurity, it's one of Miracle Musical's only songs performed live, the other being variations on a cloud. Robert Chesnick provides backing vocals. Lead vocals are performed by Laurel Stucky, and the rest is presumably produced by Joe Hawley himself. Stucky had previously collaborated with Joe on his solo album, Joe Hawley, but she hadn't made an appearance on Hawaii Part 2. Nor do any of the rest of Tally Hall play on the cover. Joe is the only holdover. Despite seeming like a Joe Hawley solo work on paper, the style is closer to that of Miracle Musical than the rest of his discography. Yet the question remains, if Miracle Musical was assembled just to produce a single album, why would Joe revive the band 2 years later for a single song? And why choose to do a cover of this song specifically? The man himself is even more mysterious than his work, so official answers are hard to come by. We do know he's ruled out any follow-ups to Hawaii Part 2. It's a completed project that doesn't necessitate a sequel. The cover is going on 11 years old, so it's certainly not leading up to anything. But the description provides the most definitive answer. In memory of Diem Brown and Trevelyan Grace Campbell. Diem and Trevelyan were both longtime fans of Tally Hall who had recently passed away. I won't go into the circumstances of their passing, both for privacy's sake and due to a lack of information. However, we do know that Diem Brown died only a month before the song was released. In response to these two tragedies, Joe reached out to Laurel Stucky to record a quick tribute. Tally Hall had been over and done with for 3 years, but Miracle Musical carried a bit of weight as a successor project, so the name was likely used to invoke legitimacy. It was one final Tally Hall song, performed for 2 fans taken far too soon. The cover art for the single is a monochromatic painting of 2 birds passing a lighthouse. While also only speculation, these could be representative of Trevelyan and Diem, flying out to a better place. Birds are often used as symbols of departed loved ones, visiting us from beyond the grave. The lighthouse itself is a nod to the original song, as performed by Helen Reddy in the 1977 film Pete's Dragon. Helen's character Nora lives within a lighthouse and waits for the return of her fiancé Paul. He's been lost at sea for a year, but she hasn't yet given up hope. One day, he'll sail back to her, and in the meantime, she'll be the light to guide him home. She's his candle on the water, or his emotional lighthouse. The lyrics are unchanged in Miracle Musical's cover, save for one word.
Soon you'll see a golden stream of light. Soon you'll see a shining stream of light.
The difference in meaning is almost negligible, but enough to alter the feeling. A golden stream represents the beam of a lighthouse searching out across a harbor, as the original song conveys. Shining fits the cover's more heavenly, ethereal tone, bringing to mind sunlight peeking through the clouds. That tone is established in the cover's opening moments. A harmonious chorus accompanied by synthetic harp exudes a grand, lifting feeling. The instrumentation is quite lush compared to the original, which, while very beautiful in its own way, was only scored by piano and strings. When the verse begins, it's accompanied by Miracle Musical's trademark synth arpeggios. This is punctuated by the downbeat of a light drum pad, and in moments of intensity, the choir of the intro flows back in. While many of the instruments are synthetic, the music sounds closer to orchestral than electronic music. Hawaii Part 2 is a real genre blender, walking that line between traditional and more modern sounds. Violins in one song, chiptune in the next, or even both in the same track. Candle on the Water leans more towards that classic sound, but there are a few moments where Stucky's voice is altered to sound glitched. After the song's final verse, a bass line carries the piano and arpeggio out as the final line repeats. Sung 3 times in the original, this line is repeated 8 times in the cover, and, considering the context, seems a little more bittersweet. While Nora refuses to let go of her hope, those who knew the departed will never let their memory go. Even if we've heard the last of Miracle Musical, this swan song is a sweet note to end on. As always, thank you for watching. It'll be a while before we cover Hawaii Part 2 in full, so we thought a short look at an underrated gem like this one would serve as a good appetizer. If you liked the video, consider subscribing to keep up with future projects, music-related or otherwise. Or don't. I don't get paid to say all this anyway.